It's time. The first game preview of the season. Locked on Illini. Let's go.
You are Locked on Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another edition of Locked on Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On, where I continue to provide you coverage daily. And now it gets a little bit easier because technically we are now in season mode. We're going to kick it off today. We're talking about a game preview with a special guest who I'll introduce in a second. But if you haven't already, make sure you've hit the like button on this particular video and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Let's try to get to 3,400 subs before we kick off against Western Illinois. It's time, right? Finally, we've been waiting all off season long. I can only come up with so many ideas and content to discuss on the show every single day for a half hour. But now we get to actually talk about real life games. And for that, for this Western Illinois preview at least, I'm going to be bringing on friend of the show, JR. JR, thanks again for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me here, Sonny.
All right, JR, let's be honest. When it comes to this first matchup for Western Illinois and Illinois on a Friday night, I don't think we're going to be talking much X's and O's or, what kind of players we're looking out for, at least on the defensive side. Usually moving forward in these game previews, I will be doing exactly that. But Illinois is a 45.5 point favorite in this game. And quite honestly, I'm looking at this game and I plan on watching this game more so like as a big picture type of situation. Do you feel the need to watch this game in any other way?
No, you're going to watch this game like Ohio State fans watch every single football game, which is like if the offense doesn't score on one drive, it's going to be like, holy crap, sky is falling, everything is terrible, we're all upset. No, but I mean, in all honesty, this is a game that Illinois should absolutely just throttle their opponent in this one. I did a pick show last night where we picked the scores for every single Big Ten team, and Illinois was the team that I had scoring the most points out of anybody in the Big Ten this week. That's just how bad Western Illinois is, and that's just how ready for week one Illinois should be. I think that this Illinois team is going to come out firing. I think that they're going to have a bunch of wide receivers that they're going to try to get the ball to, and I think Brett Bielema is going to want to see some real football be played and who stands out and who steps up as a wide receiver for this team. I could see Luke Altmaier getting a little bit more extra time and rotating in some more wide receivers because at this point, the guys are all pretty good. We've seen the reports coming out of camp and the way that Brett Bielema has talked about them, but you'd want to find that go-to guy, the guy on third downs, the deep threat. How exactly is that going to shape up? Is it Hudson Clement? Is it Colin Dixon, Mike Elzy, Braden Trimble? You've talked about him quite a bit. Is Justin Bowick going to have, a substantial role on this team? I think we're just going to see Illinois and Brett Bielema really keep his offense out there. Not too long. It's not like they're going to throttle this team and, make them go home and cry to their moms or anything. Brett Bielema has some grace in his bones, but I do think they're going to keep him out there a little bit extra longer just so they can get a little bit extra taste of this offense.
Yeah, let's just start with the wide receivers because I think that's probably what my main focus for this particular game. I talked about it on Wednesday's episode. As you said, it looks like we have a good group of talent when it comes to the wide receiver room. But I watched the Brett Bielema and Barry Lunny Jr. press conferences this week, and I feel like they're being very open in the sense of they want somebody to go out and grab these starting positions. They talk very positively about Colin Dixon and Hank Beatty and the other guys they've said have been performing, but last year around this time, you heard a lot of buzz about Pat Bryant. Like, it's his time to take on this role. Right now, I feel like that's kind of been lacking. And Barry Lunny Jr. in that press conference was very open about it and said that, yeah, we're going to be playing a lot of guys. And once they're on the field, it's up to them to make some of these plays because we know what's going to happen against Western Illinois. And so there's really no excuses. If you are on the field, go make plays. Otherwise, we're going to put somebody else who it may be as equally as talented and give them an opportunity because they're going to have to figure out that wide receiver rotation by the time they play week 2 game against Duke.
Yeah, and who's reliable as well, right? I mean, it's gonna be about making plays, but who's also going to be that reliable guy that runs the right routes every time, who catches the ball, brings it in, all of those little things that wide receivers need to do. Who's going to be that guy who is most reliable for them to look to? I agree with you, Hudson Clement, Colin Dixon. Like, there's a ton of guys on this team that could be that, and I like hearing that from Aaron Henry to talk about the possibility of multiple guys. I got that right? Aaron Henry, the
Barry Lenny
offensive
Jr.
Barry Lenny. I was like,
Yeah,
hold on,
Aaron
I just
Henry's
said
on the
Aaron Henry.
defensive.
That's not right.
Yeah.
Barry Lenny Jr. There's a lot of coordinators I gotta know in the Big Ten, guys. So, but yes, Barry Lenny Jr. talking about going to a bunch of different guys in different situations that could possibly limit how much the offense scores in this one. So I wouldn't, if they do only score like 31, 35, or something like that, I wouldn't panic because they might just be trying to get as many reps for certain guys, and that could limit things a little bit on the offense. But overall, this Western Illinois team is one of the worst teams in the FCS. You saw what what Purdue did to Indiana State last year. I mean, Hudson Card set a record for pass completions or something like that. This Western Illinois team is worse than Indiana State. So this is not a situation where Illinois should be any type of trouble at any point during the game. It's just purely what do guys look like in real game action and how are they going to perform.
And speaking of which, I know we talked about the wide receiver room. The other two position groups I'm going to have my eyes on are the trenches, both on the offensive and defensive side. I'll start with the defensive side first, just mainly because we know there's talent there. In particular, there's a lot of guys from Madison, Wisconsin now playing in Champaign. But it's, they've had the summer, they've had these, the fall practices. I want to see now what they look like when they're actually together. James Thompson Jr. looks like he's going to be an absolute star for this football team. And I've talked about if he can reach an all Big Ten type of level, like some people project, I think this defense can be outstanding. But again, it's not guys who've been playing together for years. And so bringing this kind of talent, and this is going to be the first chance to really watch and see what kind of cohesion that they have. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at on the defensive side. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, James Thompson Jr. is the one that I'm going to be watching more than anything else. The buzz coming out of camp seems to be that he's really the one that emerged on that defensive line. And overall, just want to see the other defensive linemen play well too. I made the comment, back in the preseason a little bit more, that it always seems like Illinois has that guy on the defensive line. They always seem to have that guy, whether it's Johnny Newton or Randolph or whoever. They always seem to have that guy on the defensive line. Last year, they were missing that a little bit, so I really want to see who's the guy that comes out and plays that way this season. Obviously, Gabe Yakis is going to be an outstanding pass rusher. We're used to that. We know that. But, on the defensive line, who's going to be the one stopping the run? Who's going to be the one creating chaos for the other team's offensive line? Everybody should eat in this game on the defensive line, but who's the one that kind of does it the most? Who's the one that kind of gets their name keep being called reliably? That's what I want to figure out, because this defensive line is going to be really important for Illinois this season if they do want to have a playoff run type season.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen lists where Illinois is listed in the top 15 defenses in the entire country. And quite honestly, that catches me off guard, because I get it. Our secondary, I will take up against anyone in the Big Ten Conference. And our linebackers is a really talented room. But the fact that I just haven't
linebackers, underrated.
Just the fact that I haven't seen this defensive line play together yet, though, just has me a little cause for concern. But again, I don't think we're going to get any answers on Friday night against Western Illinois, but at least it might make me feel a little bit more comfortable to see us in the Leatherneck backfield and getting some sacks. The other position group, of course, I do want to talk about is the offensive line, mainly because I know it's the opposite of the defensive line. We're bringing all these guys back from last year, but J.C. Davis has missed a lot of this camp with, I believe it's plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
There you go. And Brett Bielema just discussed on, I believe it was Wednesday, that he does think JC is a full go, that he's going to be playing. And I think I'm just going to keep an eye on and monitor just how much, because it's not like we need JC Davis to beat Western Illinois, but JC Davis is certainly going to help against Duke. So does JC look like JC of last year? If that's the case, then I'm feeling a lot more comfortable about that big week 2 matchup against the Blue Devils.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, J.C. Davis, the biggest thing from him, I just want to see that health. I just want to see him play the entire game. I don't want to see any rotation for him or anything. As long as he is continuing to play, and I say the entire game, while the first team offense is out there, I want to see J.C. Davis out there with him. I don't want to see him, rotating in any left tackle or anything like that. Just have J.C. Davis out there, guarantee that he's healthy, he's ready to go, because you're right, you are going to need him versus Duke. On the offensive line, the other guy I'm looking at is Brandon Henderson. The junior, he's going to be starting this year. What does he look like? He wasn't bad last year or anything like that. I think he had like a 63 PFF grade, which is not bad. It's not anything, I'm going to brag about or anything, but it's also not bad. So can Henderson get in tune and have chemistry with this offensive line? Can he really put it together and be a solid piece for them? Because that's the biggest thing that this Illinois offensive line has going for them is the chemistry, is the working together. And if Henderson, who's been there for a while, but obviously, hasn't been playing as much as the other guys, if he can come in and play a key role for him this year, it's going to be huge. And chemistry and all that stuff, I mean, it's a big reason why a lot of people are like me and picking Illinois to win 10 games this season. I just looked up the before we were on here, the 10 lowest team talent ratings of all the teams and Power 4 teams in college football. Illinois is in the bottom 10 of that. Now, so is Indiana, so it's not like,
I think they were 64th, I believe they were.
Yeah, Indiana was actually lower than them. I think they were like 72nd or something like that. So, it doesn't necessarily matter the talent all the time, because you can develop players, you get them better, you find some stars and things like that, some diamonds in the rough, so that's a huge piece of it as well. It's not indicative of what this Illinois season will be, but it does go to show just how much the development of Brett Bielema, the chemistry, the knowing the schematics, knowing the scheme, everything like that is so important for this team, because they're going to try to find any edge they can get against these other bigger teams they're going to be playing. Not that Duke is a bigger team than them, but it will be their first challenge of the season, and they'll need to be prepared for that.
Sure. Before we go, what final score did you predict again?
I predicted 56-3.
56-3. All right. I'll go 63-6 Illini. Hey, Locked On Illini fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for 25 cents per gallon off your first fill up. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a last-minute project? SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Their Trademaster perks, like priority shipping and dedicated support, make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHColleges for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. And welcome back. Illinois isn't the only team that's going to be kicking off their season. There's a lot of Big Ten action on this weekend. And JR, as the host of the Big Ten Huddle, who covers the entire conference as a whole, I'll give you the lead on where we should start, but I feel like we kind of know it probably begins at Ohio State.
Yeah, biggest off season or not off season, out of conference game of the season is going to be Texas Ohio State in this one. I know some people are probably hearing a lot about it this week, so they're like, let's move on to a different game. But it's huge. I mean, it's number 1 versus number 3. It's a rematch of the Cotton Bowl last year. It's the second time Texas will face Ohio State. I mean, it's back to back. Like, this is the first time that they're playing after losing to Ohio State last season. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. A lot of hype for Arch Manning. If you've heard Paul Feinbaum at all, he's talked about how he would literally marry Arch Manning. That's how much he's in love with the kid. Kind of strange, but it is what it is.
We're no fans of Paul on this show.
Yeah. So it's going to be a really interesting game. Zach and I broke it down a little bit. I think it's going to be a really defensive battle. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of fireworks in this one. It was kind of a defensive battle in the playoffs, too. Ohio State kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit, and the Ohio State defense kind of made some game-saving tackles in that one as well that really prevented Texas from running the score. Well, I shouldn't say run the score up, scoring some more points than they actually did. So this is going to be another defensive battle in my mind. Texas and Ohio State are going to have two of the best defenses in the country. Both of them are starting new quarterbacks. I do think it's interesting that Ohio State has the more experienced offensive line. However, there's people saying that Texas's offensive line is still more talented. I'll take talent and experience over just plain talent any day on the offensive line. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup. I'm picking Ohio State to win, but I honestly could see this one going either way. I'm probably like 55-45 Ohio State in this one, but it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, this is one that, unfortunately for me, it's on during my fantasy draft. So I'll probably have it on my iPad while I'm also trying to figure out how I fumble my fantasy football league for the 11th straight year.
Those darn noon games, I'll tell you.
For me, this game, ultimately, I think these two teams are very evenly matched, and it's not by mistake. This is number 1 versus number 3. I think ultimately it's going to come down to quarterback. I just don't know how much I trust Julian Sayin as much as I do Arch Manning. Not that Arch has, blown it up in college football anyway. It's the meathead in me. I'm kind of trusting that pedigree a little bit more. I've seen a little bit more, I feel like. And so for me, I do have Texas winning that game, getting revenge from the previous matchup, but it's a game that it's a shame it's on. I guess maybe it's not a shame that it's on week 1. Like, how better to kick off the football season than arguably the two best teams in the entire sport playing immediately right away for the entire country to see.
Well, I think we should start every season this way. Give me the two teams that everybody thinks is the best in the country to start the season playing the first game on that Saturday, and then give me the two best teams that earn it the most at the end of the season. Let's see how many times it's the same two. That would be pretty crazy. I hear what you're saying about Arch Manning. Obviously, he comes from the Manning pedigree, and I know some people make fun of that stuff, but I really have nothing against anybody in the Manning family. It's not like any of them have tried to turn this into a show for Peyton or Eli or anything. Like, I know there's a ton of other families out there that would try to turn this into a whole family affair, but they're just kind of letting Arch do Arch's thing, and they were not super loud in the selection process of where to go. I understand some people think, just because you have the name means that you get higher recruiting rankings and higher hype. I mean, there's plenty of other guys who have had the same name as their dad who played in the NFL, and they haven't had nearly as much hype and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily believe in all that stuff, but I do think that the part that's getting overlooked when you talk about the quarterback position in this one is the receiving help that the teams are going to have. I agree with you. I think this game is probably going to be won with the quarterback, but I think it significantly helps Julian Sayin when he has Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis hasn't played yet, but he's a leader on this Ohio State team. After never even starting a game, he's a leader this season, which is pretty crazy to me. And then you brought in arguably the best tight end in the country, and Max Clare, to come play there as well. Texas, They lose Gunnar Helm. They lose Golden. They lost a lot of their good receivers last season. Ryan Wingo comes back. That's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. He's going to be great. But you don't have a single guy on this team that has played 3 years of college football yet. The only guy, in this receiving core, you don't have a single receiver on this team that has played 3 years of college football yet. So you have a really young wide receiver room for this Texas team. You have pretty much a brand new starting line for them as well. They have experienced running backs, but I'm not trying to disparage the running back position, Sonny, but I don't think it's the biggest game changer in college football. So I'll take the offensive line. I'll take the receivers over the running backs, in my opinion. Like I said, super close, but I could definitely see Texas or Ohio State getting this one.
You have a final score prediction?
Yeah, I had this one at 17-13. Unless there's a pick six or something, I don't think either of these teams get over 21 points.
I'll get to 21. 21-17 Longhorns. JR and I will talk about the rest of the Big Ten slate right after this. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football game for as low as $25. I love zone deals. Pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, the promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Welcome back to Locked On Illini. Just a reminder, this week we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you for helping us out. All right, Jared, the other game that I kind of have my eye on is Nebraska versus Cincinnati. Quite honestly, Nebraska fans, once again, seem to be getting very confident in their team this year. And quite honestly, this year, I may not blame them too much. That schedule looks like a cakewalk. Kind of reminds me of Indiana's schedule from last year. Cincinnati is one of the few teams I think that can probably put on a challenge to Nebraska. What are your thoughts on that game?
Hey, be careful there, Sonny. I said the Nebraska fans were confident on our show, and they all got into my mentions and told me, we're never confident. I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, okay, guys, whatever. Anyway, I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I think Nebraska's going to have a really high-powered offense this season. Dana Holgorsen is a huge upgrade over what they had last year, which his name is escaping me right now. I'll remember it here in a second. But anyway, he's a huge upgrade over what they had last season. Dana Holgorsen has done this at multiple different levels, in multiple different ways, head coach, offensive coordinator, and I think he's going to be really good for Dylan Raiola. I can expect Dylan Raiola to probably pass for over 3,000 yards this season and have a much better season. Not that he was bad last season. They definitely had some things he needed to work on, but a much better season than he had last year. The thing that you're going to be looking for here in the Cincinnati matchup is how Nebraska contains Brendan Sorsby, former Indiana quarterback, for Cincinnati. He is a veteran guy who uses his legs. Cincinnati generally has a pretty good run game as well. So this Nebraska defense is going to be tested by this, and I'm not super confident in this Nebraska defense. I like their secondary, or some parts of what their secondary has. I think they have two pretty good corners, but I'm not super confident in the defensive line of this team. They have a lot to replace. We'll see if they can make it happen, but not a strong defensive line, running quarterback, typically a run game type of team. I think this is going to be a problem for Nebraska's defense, and I think Nebraska's offense will probably have to outscore Cincinnati's offense.
Tell me if I'm crazy to think this, especially on week 1, but I genuinely feel like this is a must-win game for the Cornhuskers week 1. I mean, they are 7-point favorites last time I checked. And again, the schedule makes it so that, again, in my opinion, the Cornhusker fans do seem like I'm seeing a lot of 10-2s out there for Nebraska this particular year. And having said that, if they fumble that week 1 game against, what's supposed to be a pretty decent challenge, not much of a challenge, but at least an opponent with a pulse, if they lose this game, then all that optimism is out the window. And all of a sudden you're really going to, I feel like, feel the heat on Matt Rule to correct this before things really go out of control.
Yeah, my co-host Zach, he picked Nebraska to go 10-2, and I've had fun, giving him a hard time about that one. I've said ever since last year when I picked Nebraska, I think I picked them to win 9 games last year. I said, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not going to believe in Nebraska until they show me something. Then I went ahead and picked them to win 8 games this year. So we'll see how that works out for me. But to me, that should be the floor for this Nebraska team this year. Look, they have a very favorable schedule. They have Dylan Raiola, year 2, good wide receiver core. They made their offensive line better. We'll see what happens with Elijah Pritchett and that whole left tackle situation. I don't know what's going on there, but we're going to see this a much better offense for Nebraska this season. Now it's about that defense, right? Can the new defensive coordinator, John Butler, make things happen? He comes in for Tony White. Tony White ran a pretty good defense. I won't say it was anything spectacular, but it was a good defense the past few years at Nebraska. So, but also the biggest thing that people are banking on, Sonny, year 3 of Matt Rule. He's always had a losing season, bowl season, and then he's got to that 10-win mark or something like that. And that's what people seem to be banking on. So to answer your question, I agree. It's a must-win game because I don't think you get to 8 wins if you don't win this game.
All right, final score predictions?
Yeah, I got this one 31-27 in Nebraska's favor. I do think the clock's going to run a little bit more, so it won't be super high scoring, but I think you'll see field goals and touchdowns just about every drive.
I'll go 34-20. Let's talk about another game that I think it's going to be one to watch. That's UCLA against Utah. That's a pretty good matchup. Let me know your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I think more offensive firepower in this one. UCLA is really going to have to find a way to get a pass rush in this one. Utah has 2 tackles that both are first-round caliber in the NFL draft type of guys. So UCLA, I wouldn't say it's a great secondary, but they improved their secondary from last season. I do have some concern about the pass rush and, some more of their run defense this year. But the biggest thing is Nico Iamaleava is obviously a huge bonus for them at quarterback. Ethan Garbers wasn't bad last year. Just didn't have a running game. So the biggest thing for UCLA is to get that running game this season. Quasi Gilmore's coming back, and he seems to be healthy from every report that I've read. So they are going to have some good wide receivers out there as well, but can the offensive line protect Nico Iamaleava? Utah typically has a good defense. They just haven't had a quarterback these past few years. So if Devin Dampierre can be a better quarterback this season, I picked Utah to win the Big 12 this season in my college football playoff prediction. I feel okay about that. I just think once Utah actually gets a quarterback, they're going to get back to kind of what they were. Last year was their first losing season since like 2013, I think it was. So Kyle Whittingham, he's not one to normally have losing seasons, and I don't think it'll happen again this year.
Any score prediction?
Yeah, I got this one 28-31. Utah takes it here. I think UCLA is going to put up some points, but Utah's going to put up more, obviously.
I'm actually taking a look at your post from the Big Ten Huddle. Let's talk about this Northwestern game before I let you go real quick.
Yeah, listen, I'm a little bit higher on Northwestern than other people are this season. So I don't want to come off here and say like Northwestern's going to be terrible this season, as much as I'm sure your audience would love for me to talk about that. However, I do think that this Tulane team, I mean, John Summerall's a really good coach. He's done a great job. He's probably going to be an SEC coach at Arkansas or Auburn or something like that next season. It's just a matter of time for that to happen. But this Tulane team, they've managed to get a home and home with Northwestern and with Ole Miss. I don't know how that happens, but I guess when you got, when you've been pretty good the past few years, you can eventually make that happen. I do think that this defensive line for Northwestern can put some pressure on Jake Retzlaff. He's coming in from BYU late, so perhaps they can pressure him a little bit more and maybe get the win, but I have real concerns about Northwestern's wide receivers this season. I think they upgraded their offensive line to be bigger and stronger, but that doesn't always reflect pass protection. And so if you don't have as good of pass protectors, you don't have as good receivers. Preston Stone can be, the best quarterback there is, but if you don't have anybody to throw to and nobody protecting him, we'll see what happens there. But Cam Porter, Joseph Heidman, they're probably going to do a good job running the ball. I just don't think you're going to beat Tulane by only being able to run the ball. So I got Tulane winning this one 21-17.
Music to our ears. JR, thanks for jumping on today. Can you let the crowd know one more time where they can find your work?
Yeah, check me out over at the Big Ten Huddle. Go over there with Zach, over there with Big Jeff. We're going to be doing a lot more live streams after games. We always do a power ranking on Saturday night after the final game, sometimes in the fourth quarter if things are kind of getting out of hand. And then Sunday nights, we always got our shows. Mondays, we do our college football playoff, like top 25, playoff predictions, all that stuff. I mean, we're really ramping up on the content here during the season. So it's your one-stop shop for Big Ten, but you can also find some coverage of national stuff too, because let's be honest, there's too much SEC bias out there. We got to combat the SEC bias, Sonny.
I love it. Thank you so much, JR.
Thank you.
And that's going to just about wrap it up for today's episode. Again, football season has officially started, so make sure you're subscribed and you've liked this particular video, and it's going to help me grow this channel to find other Illini fans who might be interested in the same thing. I don't know if there's going to be a Friday morning episode yet. Why? Because my everydayers in here know, if you followed me last season, I'm going to go live immediately after the football game on Friday night. Kind of give my thoughts. I'll more often than not have special guests on with me, other Illini fans. If you're interested in jumping on with me for a segment or two, please just let me know. We can maybe make that happen during this long college football and maybe even college basketball season. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel, get your notifications on so you'll know the minute I go live. I plan on waiting till after the game on Friday night, but quite honestly, if this game is over, I might just go on a little bit early. You won't miss a thing as long as you're subscribed. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.